into it, I've labeled this section as from Vegas to Penrose, but it really should be the other way around. Penrose. No disrespect to Penrose, but it's an industrial area. And Vegas is a wonderful, splendid, but we got the opposite in Vegas. We got the Penrose performance, and then back at Penrose, we got the Vegas performance. What did you make of? What was the difference for you, Ash, and what made the difference from what happened in Vegas and then what happened at Mount Smart on Friday night?
Yeah, I think the obviously the bright lights of Vegas. I think a lot of people talk about it, where it feels like a grand final atmosphere, and just seeing how Canberra just took a step into their season this season for both games, our game and the Broncos games. Like, they really get up for the big games overall early on. That's something that we definitely need to learn in future, even though I feel like this was definitely a big game for us, and it looked like we did learn a lot of the lessons from the past. So I think the biggest thing, to take out of this, and it's the biggest thing to take out of this whole season is, we lose, but we learn, right? We learn our lessons and we continue to move on. And so obviously, picking up for what the pieces from Vegas and then the performance that we put over the weekend, especially in front of our home crowd. I think it's a lot easier to, being at home and having the crowd behind us that support us and push us through and make sure that we perform at top level. So that was the biggest thing for me, bro. Is just learning all the lessons from Vegas to bring to Penrose.
Yeah, and so probably going back to, would you say that what you expected at Mount Smart last Friday is kind of what you wanted at Vegas? Kind of because I felt as though that we really showed what we can do, and against a great quality side in Manly. Is it that simple that the attitude was just a little bit off, the preparation, the temptations of Vegas, that you're out of your zone, and if you don't deal with those things, they can become distractions. As simple as that, and putting it in that way, is it what you'd say?
A little bit, yeah. I think that we got shocked in the moment. I think there was a little bit of complacency. Like, listening to a lot of pressers before coming into this game, it was just spoken about that that they didn't expect to perform the way they did. It got brought up that many times. Like Roger and his when he had his shout out to Roger, he's doing a lot of social media at the moment. He does all these videos and stuff after the game, saying the things that he checks off and stuff. But he was saying that, they were shocked because they thought they'd be obviously a lot better. And I don't know whether they just came into that game thinking not the Raiders were going to be a pushover, but there was going to be a lot more even of a matchup earlier on, and that they can find their feet very early. And I think they got punched in the mouth, kind of very similar to what the Broncos did over the weekend as well, with Canberra going at GIO. So I think that, I think we came in maybe a little bit high on our supply after our trial period. We got punched in the mouth. But came back. There was looking back at some of the stats, there was little areas where it's just like, it shows that there is something there still, even though in a poor performance that carried over to this week. But we fixed up a lot of the issues that we had underneath that. We cleaned the house a little bit, so to say. Like, we still had a lot of the same, interior design, right? The couches in the corner, this and that, but we just put a lot of dirt on the ground. So we just cleaned that up a little bit, and the couch is looking real nice at the moment. So hopefully it continues to look even better against the Roosters. Couple of pillows on the couch, I reckon.
I love sleeping on the couch too, so hopefully on Friday night, man. But no, I totally agree with you that it's as simple. Well, not as simple, but getting all those details right. And like you said, there are some green shoots in a poor performance, and that they did carry over. I just want to transition now into what I saw and what you saw, but around the forward pack. And I mean, we're going to talk about will they be consistent, but what was your takeaway from their performance? They seem so locked in and so adamant on being the dominant pack and being strong both on the ball, off the ball. What did you make of that performance on Friday night?
I think it first showed a little bit of what Fish is kind of trying to bring into this club, right? Is obviously we saw last year in the Pacific Championships. Do you remember the Pacific Championships? Not last year, the year before, where, Australia end up beating New Zealand quite convincingly in that first game. And then Fish carried a lot of that, and you cleaned up a lot of the issues. And in that last game, the final, where you blew us out 32-0 or whatever, where Fish was a big standout. I think this is the thing, is what's so good at having Fish at the club is someone that can drive standards. And after being beaten, shocked in round one, which I didn't think he was too bad at all, but him trying to raise the level of the middle and saying, no, we are the alpha dogs. Like, we got me, we got Barnett, we've got a lot of boys that want to, we're alpha dogs. We want to take over the contest and be the man. I think that they really fixed up a lot of that issue. And, over time, I'm sure that Fish is, as Barnett said in the video that was on Instagram recently, he was pretty much like, well, that was the standard we set right now for Manly. Let's raise that standard, or, that is our standard. We're going higher than that. We're going to continue to push it. So that's the thing I'm really excited to see what more these guys can definitely have with this, right?
Yeah. I think, going on that performance, I know I had some good discussions last night with some of our members around, can we do this again and again and again? And I think there's a high likelihood that we could, but we do need to see it. Look, we've got another game against the Roosters, and look, you've got the same preparation. You're back at home still. Everything screams and says that you should be able to get up for this, and hopefully they do. Are you expecting a similar result as what we had against Manly? And my big thing is, can they stay consistent in their D, their line speed, all those things, and dealing with a pack in the Roosters that can be a bit more physical, I'd say, than Manly. But what do you think?
Yeah, we're coming into this weekend looking at the pack that obviously the Roosters have named. It is going to be, for me, a little bit of a tougher test in areas, right? But, if we stand on I think with the Raiders, there was periods where we did find our middle stepping up. It's just obviously our edges kind of fell apart in moments as well. So I do think that the consistency will come over time, but obviously I'm in the same boat with you. I kind of want to see it for, I've been saying it's the start of the season. I need data. I need like 3 to 4 or 5 games of saying, all right, this is where we're sitting right now. Like, we can have high moments, we can have low moments, but we're just going to make sure the high and the low is not too far away from each other. They're very similar. Obviously the Raiders was a fairly low mark, but hopefully that was a variable, and the other 2 marks are definitely higher, and that we can find a middle ground there. So I think we can play to that standard, right? I really do, especially with Barnett. We've seen Barnett hold that standard through last year in a very poor year. Fish can hold that standard for sure. It's obviously the other boys that we have around there. I thought Aaron Clark was incredible. It was great to see Webby obviously trust in him and get the starting role there and play with him through it. And if we hold that, I reckon we're going to be fairly good. So that edge back rollers there too. I thought they had a pretty solid outing over the weekend. That we need to see a consistent performance from those guys week in, week out. I think we both agree on that, right?
Yeah. That's a big area too. Just going on the game plan, it felt not that they say throw away their really expansive attacking, but they did say that they wanted to pretty much make a statement on the Manly 4-pack. We're going to break you down through the middle. We're going to have 1-out runs and we're going to damage you. Do you think we could go in with a little bit of that similar strategy as well? Where I'm not saying the halves went good, but I felt that the middles did such damage on the on the Seagulls that it set the great platform for the halves. Would you expect something similar, or do you think we can continue with that kind of energy and kind of attitude about our forward play?
I think we can, for sure. I think that, looking at the Doggies season from last year and even our 2023 season, I did feel like that our attack didn't really find its feet until mid to late in the season, and it was very stock standard earlier on, and that's why obviously our whole system right now has been labelled stereotypically like a very simple system. I feel like the Raiders game was a little bit too much we got punched in the face, so we started going sideways trying to play around them. Very similar to what happened with Manly in this game, where I think Manly, they got into their system of we need to play around these guys instead of earning the right to play football. And I think it's the simplest cliche in the world is if you win the middle battle and you earn the right to play football, then we can get expansive in a way later on in the game when we find our moments and get momentum. But we just can't try to do it too early, if that makes sense. So you got to try and win the middle battle. And I think that with the simple game plan that we ran over the weekend, I think we can do that consistently and do it really well and do all the simple stuff right before we even look at playing very expansive footy, which I think there is ability and decide to do so. It's just winning the middle first, right?
That I think that's really what I loved about that game was like, um, the halves were dropping the back rowers underneath. Everyone was making sure that, hey, we've got to do the work through the middle and punish them that way. And you saw it with Jake Travojevic eventually getting sent off. Manly was sitting and laying in the ruck. They couldn't. And sometimes you do panic when
Yeah,
that speed of the player ball is a little bit slow and your timing's off. I thought the boys called it a good game and waited patiently for the moments to open, and they did.
agreed.
And I just thought that's built off the pack, and good work by Webby and the team to manage that as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, um,
That's what it
I,
felt like though too, bro.
yeah,
Like, moving back to, like you said, Vegas to Penrose. I think in Vegas we did fall away from our system in a way. I think the boys, that when they hit saw the bright lights, they wanted to, obviously they wanted to do it, not say do it the easy way in a way, but like, young halves, Metcalf and that, they wanted to show that they had really amazing shape they've been working on in the preseason, instead of doing the
yeah,
hard stuff which our system entails. And, going up against Manly, we didn't have it wasn't a perfect performance, but it showed a lot of potential as well. But also showed that if we play, through the middle, and we earn the right to play football, which is the way the system's supposed to be played, turn edge back rollers under and build their performance during the game. When it comes later on in the game, then we can start putting points on the board and really blowing teams out late. So, which was a big surprise in a Manly game to blow it out, 36-16. But that's what building our platform early on in the game allows us to do in the game.
yeah. No, it's really cool to see and acknowledge the boys on that setting that and that patience and that continual grind. And it broke Manly
Agreed.
down, broke their hearts, which I love seeing.